mountaincy looking so sincere. Forget winter, even at the beginning of spring or late in autumn people freeze to death here, he wanted to say, but from the looks of it the girl had no idea about what cold was. Richard could only refuse her invitation. "No, I have to meet Master this afternoon." Mountaincy made a sound of surprise and suddenly remembered, stating, "I have an appointment with her this afternoon too, I'd almost forgot about that. Actually, it doesn't matter whether I see her, but since you're going, let's go together." Though there was still some time before the appointment, Richard had no plans to get food elsewhere. He could only use the internal communications system and ask the people who sent meals over to bring a few light refreshments when they came to clean up. He then found a place with a wide view by the large French window and began to chat with Mountaincy. The girl talked about the glory of the barbarian world. From her narrations, Richard learned that they lived on a huge island at the east of Norland called the Desolate Continent. This was because in terms of surface area, it could already be considered a continent. The native tribes that lived there called this continent Klander, the land of the new heroes. Richard also mentioned the great life he'd had in Rusland. Although it was the life of people who lived at the very bottom in the continent, Mountaincy listened on with keen interest. At this point, Steelrook and the old man had completed touring Richard's residence once. Steelrook's gaze swept through the various magic materials and books, even secretly taking a thick and dull planet geometry book from the bookshelf and flipping through it. There were many notes wedged inside, in which Richard had written his thoughts. Every note only had 1 or 2 lines, but there were a fair number of them accumulated throughout the book. Steelrook placed the book back and used his fingers that were as thick as a steel pillar and lightly grasped a book on magic theory. After flipping through it, he found a similar set of notes and nodded, before pushing it back on the bookshelf. Compared to normal humans, Steelrook was basically a giant, but his current movements were surprisingly agile, not leaving behind a single trace. The old man stood in front of Richard's work table, bending over as he looked carefully at one of Richard's incomplete ideas for a rune. The large parchment paper spread on the table was filled with countless numbers and formulas, as well as 2 roof drawings of parts of a magic formula. The final structure was yet to be completed, and there was still some calculations and validating formulas to be done. An incomplete concept like this was something no